Welcome to This Endorian Life, a Star Wars podcast from the Radio Meanwhile Network. My name is Steve Rudd.
I'm Nick Gunning, and we're following the Ewoks from Return of the Jedi to the Ewok TV movies, the 80s cartoon, and beyond.
And beyond. Today, we are discussing Season 2, Episode 7A, Hard Sell, which originally aired on October 25th, 1986.
Okay.
We were wee boys.
You have to. I feel like it's been a while since you've said that. It's
I
like
know.
a tick that you have. It comes, you say the date, it has to come out.
And it has to be in like a fake Scottish accent, too. We were wee boys,
Yeah.
you know? Like,
You have to be doing a bad, like, Shrek to say it. This episode was written by Michael Reeves. So not as strong as The Raish. Still a fun episode. Not as strong as that one. Directed by Dale Scott, of course. Released on VHS as part of the compilation Wicket's Adventures. Our featured member of the cast and crew today is Michael Reeves. So Michael Reeves, better known as an author of traditional fiction, not so much a TV author here, but Michael Reeves worked with his daughter Mallory Reeves and author Neil Gaiman on the fantasy trilogy Interworld. This was originally pitched as an animated series, and the story came out in novel form as the first book, Interworld, in 2007, The Silver Dream in 2013, and Eternity's Wheel in 2015. I haven't read these books, but they sounded kind of cool, so maybe I need to go and check them out.
I've never heard of him, but I know Neil Gaiman. I do like him. I do like him. I've heard his weird stuff though, not like he has that new show coming out, The Sandman, based on that series.
Yeah.
I've read like his
novel,
Norse mythology one.
Sure. Yeah,
that one was really good.
Yeah, I just did the Graveyard Book.
Okay.
A library book club that we just had on that. Yep.
I think I read that book because I watched the show Vikings, and I was just like really into Vikings, and then like that kind of popped up on my Audible, like you know when your phone listens to you, and I was probably talking about Vikings, and it just popped up, and I was like, "Oh, cool, Neil Gaiman! I know that's a big name," you know, and it was good, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just no one else I know has read that. They're all like, "Oh yeah, I read all this stuff," and I'm like, "Yeah,
yeah." That
just
came
read
out
the
at the
obscure
perfect
stuff.
time because there was kind of a craze for a minute there.
Yeah.
That would, like mythology in general, Greek mythology,
It
Norse
was.
mythology was kind of like having a moment, and that came out at the perfect time. So I know it was a bestseller and super popular.
I was super sucker for it.
Probably
too.
more popular than the Interworld trilogy as co-written by Michael Reeves.
Interworld. Yes, we'll have to check it out.
Shall we roll into the synopsis?
Yes, we shall. The synopsis: Season 2, Episode 7A, Hard Sell. While strolling through the forest on their way to Muth the trader's hut, Latara whines about her new scarf. On their way, they passed the Bobog's lair. He's the meanest creature in the forest, so they try to walk by quietly. Of course, Tebow, as clumsy as he is, snaps a twig by stepping on it. They all run and manage to escape, even though Latara had to swing back for her scarf. They flee straight to Muth's hut, where they find his place very messy. Muth has been down on his luck and sick lately and needs help selling his goods. When they discover Eodon tusks on his shelf, they all bet that whoever can trade the most of Muth's wares will be awarded the tusks. It's boys versus girls this time, and they set out to sell with a warning from Muth to stay away from the Bobog. Down by the river, the boys try and trade swamp pickles to the Kegels, but end up giving them away, even though the Kegels half-heartedly promise to pay them back. The girls fail at selling their own wares. Both girls and boys also spy on each other, thinking the other is a complete failure. The boys try once again to trade a blanket with Larry.
Yay!
After his sob story, they end up giving that away too. Attempting to seduce a prospective buyer, Latara ends up getting nearly kidnapped if it weren't for Nisa's keen rope-throwing skills. Both parties completely fail, and in a last-ditch effort decide to try and trade with the Bobog. Messing up the trade spectacularly, Latara accidentally shampoos the Bobog's hair with tree sap. Furious, the Bobog chases them once again. On their way to try and trade as well, Wicket and Tebow act quickly to try and stop the Bobog from getting the girls. Using their last worthwhile wear, Wicket tosses a jar of Fludge, candy Fludge, at the Bobog, which actually stops him in his tracks. The group returns to Muth's hut empty-handed, ready to deliver the bad news that they lost their wares and gained nothing in return. When they arrive, Muth is ecstatic. The Kegels have traded their family cure to Muth and purchased more swamp pickles. The Bobog also stopped by and traded many gems for more fludge. He really likes the stuff.
Mm.
The Bobog also stopped by and traded many gems for more fludge. He really loves the stuff. Muth offers up the Eodon tusks to whomever did the best. While they all argue about who deserves the tusks, a booming voice shouts, "They're mine!" The Eodon has returned for his tusks, and the group humbly hands them over. Roll credits.
Right off the bat, I gotta say, I loved the who's who of past guest stars showing up.
Yes, that was key.
That was a lot of fun. Of course, we have Muth, who we first met in Curse of the Jindas.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the Kegels, who we met in Gone with the Nymphs, and we have Larry. Larry's back from Home is Where the Shrieks Are.
Yeah. Larry just chilling at the base of a tree. Just
He living his best life. I loved it.
Yep.
That was kind of nice. I mean, a lot of times, we get these things and they're just like little one-off things, but to have 3 back in one episode, I thought was kind of cool. So that stood out for me as fun.
I know, and especially too with like the Kegels were so random in the episode they were in.
Yeah.
That we were kind of like, all right, that was like a weird flex, but okay, you just like made up a species and then just had them and just had them. That was it. They were gone. As fast, as quickly as they came.
Yeah.
They left. And so to have them back was just like, oh, great. Perfect.
Yeah. We've complained a lot about like lack of cohesion. It just seems like we're just throwing episodes out randomly. So I feel like this one, because it had, continuity is a strong word, but because it had an eye to like looking at creatures and situations we've used the past and putting them all together in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
I really thought that paid off nicely. So yeah, I had to give it props for that.
Absolutely. That one creature though that Latara attempted to was that wasn't a returning creature though, right? That was some strange
she had kind of a Zsa Zsa Gabor vibe about her. She was
toad
very like
bat. Yeah, she did like
the toad bat.
The toad bat thing. Yeah.
There was the toad bat, and then there was also the lady who was all like curvy and like, hello, I'm a sexy Ewok character.
I know. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a good mix of new and old. So I appreciated that.
Yeah. I love too, Larry was great. It's just like a whole like, man, we really got to sell these wares. Like, hey, Larry, just Larry is over there. Just
There was a classic like sitcom montage of Wicket like knocking on people's doors, being like, "Look at these fine products," slamming the door in his face.
Yeah,
I loved that. I loved when the Bobog gets the sap in his hair. And Latara's like, or maybe it was Nisa. No, it was Latara. Was like, we also have other fine products. Just a little bit of humor in there. I thought was fun.
Pretty good. This one was actually. I remember about halfway through checking the time. Right. Sometimes you check the time because you're like, when is this? Most of the time, I'd say we check the time to see when is it going to end. But this one, I was just like, man, I could actually do a little bit more of this. It was fun. It was really fun, and I was thinking, what other characters are going to pop up on this episode when I saw it the first time? I was thinking, oh, surely we're going to see like the Jindas or something. And it's just no, they weren't worth, I guess, throwing back into the show. But Larry was. Just Larry was worth it. Kegels were funny too. They're pretty funny guys.
Yeah, they made it. They were much more like, we're hillbillies and we love pickles.
Yeah, we love the swamp pickles. We love them. They try so desperately to sell it, but they didn't even need to sell it to them because they love them. So
I feel like we're settling into more of a just like a goofy kids show, and I'm okay with it.
Well, this one felt Ewok-y, right? It felt Star Warsy, but it felt like that was an episode of Ewoks. Like they all want, for some reason, they all want the Eodon horns.
Yeah.
Which when you looked at them, they did not look spectacular. The box they came in looked great. But
as we've discussed in the past, season 1 was kind of a swing and a miss as far as like sometimes they wanted to make it serious and sometimes they wanted to just be goofy. They like took a stab at having some sort of mythology with Morag and stuff. And while like if they would have done that, I think I would have liked it. They never quite did. In season 2, the criticism is always that it like throws out any semblance of sophistication and it just goes goofy. But like, I don't know, for the last several in a row, they've kind of like at least stuck the landing with just being like a goofy kids show. And I feel like if that's the new goal, then they're succeeding at the goal, and what more can we ask? So I
think
let's
it
do it.
worked too, because the Bobog wasn't like, he didn't feel like he was going to kill them, right? Like other things are kind of like, oh, let's run, and it's just like the enemy wants to literally slaughter them.
Right.
Where this one, he was just like, Arr! You know, he just felt like
you kids get off my lawn.
Exactly, that's what he felt like, and so I thought that to me made more sense. Like, all right, that actually worked. You know, it doesn't have to be peril all the time.
Yeah.
Like life and death peril.
Right.
It was just like, oh crap. You know, let's try and sneak by. Like, we're near his hut. Let's try and sneak by. Quietly. Like, why don't you just walk the other direction and go around instead of like right in front of his door? I thought that was funny. I was like, what?
That doesn't make for good television. Come on now.
No, that's true. Yeah. We should avoid it. And then they actually avoid it. That's not good television.
I have a kind of a struggle with finding an Oak of Arc moment in this, because it all kind of worked. You know, I don't really. Did you? What was your Oak of Arc moment? Did you have one?
I think mine was the fact that they were like, oh, let's stay away. And they just like walked. It's like, you know, like, oh, I got to stay away from my neighbor's house. And like to go to my car, I just like walk across his porch and then go to my car. Like, what the heck, you know? So for me, I was just like, ugh. You know, they couldn't have like fallen down that hill and then crashed into his hut or something like that, which would have made more sense.
True.
Actually, no, I know what my Oak of Arc moment was. It was the scarf. That was very strange to me. And I kind of half expected the scarf to come around at the end, right? So everyone knows it was a blue and green scarf. It was striped, equally striped. And she's like, I wanted a green and blue scarf, or a green scarf with blue stripes. And obviously this is a blue scarf with green stripes. You know, so it's just like, all right, this is going to come back. Right?
I thought the same thing, because in the early part, it gets snagged on the tree and she has to run back for it. So much attention is put in this scarf, and the whole thing is about them trying to trade and sell wares. I was expecting it to be they won because she traded her scarf for something and that, but it just never comes back.
Right. So, I mean, well, here's the thing too. Let's talk about the trading.
Let's really get into it.
Let's get into this trading, right? The girls fail completely on all fronts. The boys successfully trade pickles with the Kegels,
but they don't get anything in return for them. The Kegels want the pickles,
Muth
but they don't get anything.
Muth does, right? So they go back to Muth for more pickles and then trade their family cure. So Muth benefits, which was the whole point. And then the second trade, Larry, you know, they don't get anything back, but they, out of the goodness of their heart, give Larry the blanket anyway, which is great. I mean, it's kind of funny. Larry never went in like, oh, Larry, you know, he loved the blanket so much he came back for more. He came back for the sheets and the pillows. You know,
he's a hermit.
He just got his blanket and left. But like, Muth actually benefited from what the boys did, and they're sitting there all arguing like, well, I did this, and it's just like, I thought, well, none of them were like, well, we basically cured Muth by hooking him up with the Kegels, and through the fludge candy, fludge, which brought the Bobog to Muth as well and traded old gem. So like in my mind, I thought, well, this is no contest. Like the boys should get the tusks.
I suppose that's true. I guess it felt like there was still an element of like, even though good things came out of it, it was still pretty much an accident on their part.
Yeah, you're right. It really was an accident.
I mean, I guess that's the only thing. I think I would agree with you as far as Oak of Arcs, though. The setup of the scarf and then nothing happened with it. It was like, why did we do that? It feels like something was cut, or they just were like, we're not going to do that anymore, because it's so out of place and so bizarre. And nothing happens with it.
It's kind of like, well, that was weird. Like, I mean, that's a valid Oak of Arc, but literally that's it.
Yeah.
This was a pretty good episode.
You can't really just pick apart, you know, a goofy little show.
Yeah.
Ichiwawa moment was your favorite part?
Larry. Absolutely Larry. And the fact that like when he started telling his story, like immediately you hear like in the background, and I'm like, Tebow's crying. Like it was so obvious, and then it cuts to him and he's, you know, waterfalls out of his eyes, like can't control himself. And I thought, oh, they're gonna give him the blanket. I know it, but it was so good to see Larry again. They just find him kind of like rooting around in the grass at the base of a tree, like, oh, hey, there's Larry.
There he is.
Let's trade this blanket with him. Dude obviously has nothing to trade on him.
Right.
But like, it was just good to see Larry again. Really good.
I agree.
What about you?
Well, I'm torn. I mean, I would say that it was all the recurring guest stars coming back.
True, yeah.
I really liked the knocking on the door montage. I just thought that was funny, and it felt like such an 80s sitcom to me that I was like, yeah, this is a good moment.
Yeah.
How many yub nubs do you give this one?
I'd say this was like a solid like 4.25.
Okay.
This one was good. Like I had really not much to. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to this episode, right? So I can't really complain. And I thought it felt like an Ewoks episode.
Yeah.
So but it wasn't as good as some of the other stuff that I've given like a 4.5 to and stuff like that. What about you? Like,
I agree. I agree. Yeah, I thought I'm right there with you because it was a good time. It was nothing more than or nothing less than just like 12 minutes of a good time. So yeah. I think
I have to give it those props too for like checking the time. Like, wow, this is actually kind of fun. And then I realized looking at it, I was like, oh man, there's like 2 minutes left to this. Like, how are they going to wrap this up? So I thought this one was good. This was a good episode all around. Yeah,
I agree. And next time we're going to be back with the second half of this episode, season 2, episode 7B, A Warrior and a Lurdo.
Yeah. Oh, so I do remember this episode. In the very beginning, like I forget how quickly they like roll into the next episode when it's sometimes it's kind of like obvious, like and they look at the camera and then it closes out and you're like, all right, that's the end of this episode. This one, the one we just watched, A Hard Sell, it's not really obvious that the episode is ending, and it kind of fades to black and comes back in.
Rolls right in, yeah.
It rolls right in, and then you're reminded by the title screen when it eventually comes up, but the music is really intense. So I'm really looking forward to talking about this one.
Same.
Lurdo.
All right. And I will see you then.
Yep. See you then. This Endorian Life was brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Other shows on the network include 90s Music Got Me Like, previously on X-Men, and 9021 Here We Go. Share your thoughts on this and upcoming episodes by following us on Facebook or Twitter @Endorian Life, and please rate, subscribe, and share the show wherever you get your podcasts.